Welcome everyone to today's Obesity Institute seminar. It's co-creating family backyard cricket for South Asian and Black communities. For those who don't know me, I'm Maria Maynard from the School of Health, and I'll chair the session today. So I'll mention the format of the session, then introduce today's speakers before handing over to them. So Alosh, if you could just move on to the next slide so I can do the next announcement. Yeah, so please be aware that the event is being recorded. We'll have a presentation for, 30 minutes or so, 30, 40 minutes, and then there'll be plenty of time for questions. And if you could just move on for me one last time, thank you. And so for the Q&A, if you could please use Slido to lodge your question, which I can then read out for the speakers. The link to Slido is there on the slide, and it is also in the chat, I think, or Sunit will put that in the chat shortly. So you can go directly into Slido, or you can put your question into the chat box, and then Sunit in the background will place that into Slido for me. So I think that's all the formalities. Onto our speakers today. So our esteemed guests today are Alosh Jose and Dr. Faatihah Niyi-Odumosu. So I'll give you a flavour of their many activities and achievements just as a brief introduction. So Alosh has an MSc in International Sport Management and is co-founder and CEO of Cricketqube, which you'll be hearing a lot more about, a social enterprise aimed to improve community health and engagement through cricket. And indeed, they engage with over 1,000 individuals each month. His work has attracted 3 Innovate UK awards with a focus on inclusivity, public health, sports engagement, community cohesion, and he also integrates real-world insights into the curriculum for university sports courses across a range of universities. Dr. Faatihah is an Associate Professor of Physical Activity and Health at the University of the West of England in Bristol. She is a medical doctor, as well as holding a PhD in clinical exercise physiology. Her research is funded, among others, by the Medical Research Foundation and the Medical Research Council, and features co-designing physical activity and health improvement interventions, interdisciplinary approaches to effective and sustainable physical activity among underrepresented groups, rehabilitation research, and I'm not sure we're going to be getting into this today, but for future reference, and I think should be noted, robotic assistive technology. It sounds very exciting. We'll hear about that another day. So a very warm welcome to you both. We're delighted and honoured to have you with us here today. So as soon as you're ready, then I'll hand over to you for your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Maria. It's a great intro. I'm really happy to be here. And I think we started working together about a year ago, Maria. So yeah, it's really happy to be here and then sharing our project of family backyard cricket. So the whole idea of Cricketqube itself kind of started when I was younger. I grew up in India, just played cricket everywhere that we could. If you had one tennis ball and one friend, you could play cricket, and that's how we kind of started. The idea was that to make cricket as accessible and inclusive as possible. So we had already doing a project for Innovate UK when I met Dr. Faatihah at a conference in Birmingham, which was also organized by Innovate UK. And then we soon realized that we had a lot of things in common, trying to make sure that ethnic minorities and marginalized groups are more active through sports, and that's what we both wanted to do, and we thought cricket would be a good medium to do that. So immediately there was a lot of scope for us to work together, and the idea of family backyard cricket came through that. So I'll let Dr. Faatihah talk through more about what were the aims and what were the circumstances this came into existence and how that project went.
Thanks, Alosh. Thanks, Maria, for the introduction as well. So I would like to share some interesting reports with you. We are all aware of the health disparities among the Black and South Asian population. And we have established report by Sports England that there is minimal active lifestyle among the South Asian and Black communities. It's been reported that the Black and South Asian adults are more inactive than their white contemporaries. It's also reported that within the pediatric age and the children, we have about 60% of Black and South Asian children who are inactive compared to the white British children. We need to also understand that there are lifestyle risks associated with this community, such as cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes. And this has been linked to some level of genetic predisposition, as well as their level of inactivity as well. Diabetes UK reported that South Asians have about 2 to 4 times likelihood to develop type 2 diabetes than the white contemporaries. And we've also noted that within the Black adults, they have a low mental health treatment rate when it comes to accessing mental health services compared to white British group. Next slide, please. So like Alosh mentioned earlier on, we met at Birmingham and we talked about what we could do to reduce health inequality. Is a guru in cricket, and as an academic, we thought about coming up with a project that would not just engage these communities who are somehow driven within their space, not well represented for research, and not just the community, a sort of a holistic approach to engaging their family members as well. So we're quite aware about the health inequalities that happen within this community. So we thought about building a sort of a co-creating a robust platform, not just bringing about a project to them, involving them as stakeholders, such that they would be co-creators of these ideas, and they can help with, not just develop, but also facilitating a platform that would improve and sustain their level of physical activity across different generations. Next slide.
Yeah, that's where the whole family backyard cricket came about. So the idea was that cricket can be and should be a form of activity that can be played by the whole families. So it doesn't matter what their ages are, where their backgrounds were, whether they've played cricket before. The idea was that it's a simple game. If you have your whole families and communities around it, it makes the cricket even easier to play. So that was the idea behind family backyard cricket, like Dr. Faatihah said. And then together we applied for an Innovate UK Inclusive Award funding to develop the whole idea. So we did not want to create something and then put it out in the community without their input. And it just felt that if we did that, it probably would fail because we could not actually understand what were the barriers and what were the potential solutions coming from the communities itself. So the idea was that it was always co-development and co-design, trying to understand the barriers and make sure that we have enough precautions to battle those barriers. And we wanted to make sure that cricket was fun. So family backyard cricket, the idea was that everyone can come together, parents, grandparents, children, so they can all come together and they can all learn from each other. And we realized that many of our target families, their parents or grandparents are born in other countries, in cricket mad countries like India, the Caribbean, and have played cricket when they are younger. But their younger family members, like the children, have not played cricket as much. But there is a lot of legacy from their families coming through to cricket, and we wanted to make sure that we tap into that as well. And that's why we chose cricket itself. Incredibly popular among the South Asian and Caribbean populations in the UK. And we wanted to make sure that their experience, the parents and grandparents' experience in cricket, could be used as an entry point for younger generations to play cricket. And because it's a non-contact sport as well, it also made sense to have different generations and genders all included in the activity. It's more skill-based rather than strength-based, so that made sure that it is more inclusive than some of the other sports could be.
So the uniqueness of Family BYC is one, it ran through a year duration, and we had different centers where we had a co-developers workshop and as well as a trial event session. So the project started in April last year, right, Alosh? And we had our first co-development workshop in Newcastle, whereby that was more of gender tailored. We had only male. We quite understand barriers experienced by South Asian females, in particular. So we, developed a session which is gender tailored. So we had our first co-development workshop in Newcastle, which was in June last year. Where we had the opportunity to understand their knowledge and understand their knowledge and perception about playing cricket and how we could, collaboratively develop a cricket model that would not just make them active, but also make their family members active. Afterwards, we had the first trial event, which was quite fascinating. We had about 6 families with their parents and including parents and grandparents, and that held in Newcastle as well in August last year. And we had a second trial event which we had in Bristol. So the difference between these two trial events was that the South Asian community, which were participants during the first trial event, were different. So it was more of the South Asian community in Newcastle, and the second trial event focused on the Black communities, which was in Bristol. The second co-development workshop was last year as well, in November, whereby we had the second female co-development workshop. The females were also engaged when it comes to understanding their perception and their level of interest in playing cricket and possibility of exploring the barriers they could experience, especially the Muslim women within this participant. And we had a final trial event in March at Leeds. Next slide, please.
So this is a video from our first trial event in Newcastle that Dr. Faatihah has mentioned. We had 6 families, and let's have a look at how they enjoyed it. Hopefully you can hear it, but even if you can't, it should be fine. Yeah, so that was the first trial event. It was really successful in Newcastle, and then and then later on during the summer holidays, we also did our second trial event in Bristol as well. So
I'll share some findings from the first family workshop workshop in Newcastle. Next slide, please. So we had 6 male participants from diverse backgrounds, including Afro-Caribbean and South Asian communities, and there was a mixture of grandparents, including parents and children. The level of engagement in this trial session was the fact that we had them, actively involved in decision making as well, and we're able to gather insights from all the participants. Insights about barriers to participation in cricket and possibility of suggesting pointers we need to take note when we want to design the family BYC to make it as much as inclusive as possible was mentioned. The section was divided in several sections, which include exploring cultural barriers that could hinder people, especially the females, from participating or engaging in cricket, as well as how we could make or design the model to be as inclusive as possible. Next slide, please. And the key learnings to this was that there was emphasis on focusing on venues, which is very inclusive in terms of exploring indoor and outdoor venues, and emphasis about refreshment, which would entail, the possibility of allowing everyone to eat such, and also because they feel that when there is inclusive food or inclusive refreshment within such gathering, that would attract more people to get involved in the cricket. There was also emphasis about strengthening intergenerational engagement with this model, and overcoming barriers experienced include culturally developing a sensitive solutions to women only sessions, whereby women will be only involved in terms of playing such cricket models. The health benefits was identified, which include not just improving the physical, but also improving the mental health capacity of participants. And we also noted that the cricket session should be as fun and more accessible as much as possible. Next slide, please.
So in the second co-developed workshop we held in Bristol, so as you have noted, the first one was men only, while the second one we had just women co-developing. So I thought this was quite important to make sure that we understand the contrast from the gender point of view as well. And in the Bristol workshop we had 6 women again, varied with age ranges from 19 and 43, and we had British Pakistanis and various participants from different African regions as well. So in here as well, we had mothers and daughters, and that was quite important to have whole families for the co-development workshop as well, because we understood their concerns and ideas from a familial point of view. We had very similar sections here as well. We asked the co-developers different questions that would identify the barriers and possible solutions in the community to play family backyard cricket. And then from here onwards, we had some very key learnings. So that again included on cultural and religious sensitivity, appropriate food, like we already realized. The South Asian and Black communities, they could be quite different from each other, the sub-communities within each other. So there were a few communities who would only eat vegetarian food. So these things are also quite important for us to learn through the workshops, and the importance of that sensitivity. And they identified challenges such as childcare, work schedules, etc., as key barriers for women themselves. And some of the suggestions that they've made included childcare provisions to encourage participation. So this became quite important for us. So I will talk about them in a later stage. But the key concerns was to make sure that the setting itself was ideal for young children as well as slightly older children who were able to play cricket. And they also mentioned that we could have women-only sessions as soon as the men session or open sessions are concluded, to make sure that we make enough sessions or enough opportunities for women to be active, as some of them might not be happening in other regular exercise provisions. And from here, so these are some of the pictures from our various family backyard cricket. So that one is in Newcastle. These two are in Newcastle. That's in Leeds. That's in Bristol. So it kind of shows how adaptive we are. So we've got outdoor sessions, we've got indoors, we've got different age ranges there parents there as well. So that kind of shows how inclusive and impactful FBYC could be.
So I'll be sharing some learnings from the trial event. So we'll start with the Newcastle session. We were able to engage 5 families, and there was highlight about involving different generations. With ages between 2 to 55, we had children and we had grandparents. And the use of plastic bats and wind balls were mentioned, which ensure the safe and fun environment. All the families love the session, which shows a desire and passion for future events as well. For the Bristol session, that engaged and focused on just the African families, and it was also a structured event. It was outdoor compared to the Newcastle session, which was indoor, and we had all the participants express interest in and desire to continue such events in the future. And for the lead session, we had a very low turnout, but the level of engagement was quite impressive. Most of the participants are from the Caribbean community, and it was quite competitive, and which also highlighted their level of excitement and the willingness of the attendees requesting more sessions in the future. Next slide, please.
So I think carrying on from what Dr. Faatihah said, so the sense of community was really important in all our sessions. So in all 3 sessions, we did not have communities, participants from one particular sub-communities. We had various different communities coming together for the sessions. So like she mentioned, we had in Newcastle, we had Indian, Pakistani, and Malaysian families coming together to play cricket, while in the Bristol community, in the Bristol session, we had Zimbabwe, Nigerian and Ghanaian people all coming together to play cricket. So this was quite important to make sure that what we are developing is not just for one sub-community, it is for all the communities within the Black and South Asian groups as much as possible. And then it also made sure that cricket is an incredibly popular sport. So in the world, it's the 2nd most popular sport, and the popularity among our target groups are really evident right from the start at our trial events. And we also noted that both men and women participated actively. I think having the families around, which was really helpful for everyone to feel comfortable and making sure that they had fun while playing cricket. And then we had some really good feedback. So we wanted to make sure that what we do after the project is to deliver more and more sessions. So it was really important to make sure that we had really good feedback from the trial events.
So yeah, a major output from this project is we are going to, well, firstly, we have one more to share. We're going to share our findings at the upcoming ISPA conference, which is in Paris in October. We submitted an abstract which was accepted for presentation. Next slide. That is the poster template there.
Yeah. And then we also, after the project ended in April, the Northeast Combined Authority contracted us to deliver family backyard cricket in Newcastle. So that was really good because it kind of gave us more ideas as to what we can do in Newcastle and our home region, as well as Cricketqube is based in Newcastle. So from here, I'll share a video that Newcastle City Council shared about us last week, about the impact that we have in the community with our cricket sessions.
I think you need to stop sharing and share with audio.
Is it no?
Because the sound.
Was there no audio before as well when I shared the previous video?
Okay.
Yes, we couldn't hear anything. So
Right, okay.
if you click that button, share with audio, it should be okay.
Yep, got it.
My name is Alosh. I'm the CEO of Cricketqube Initiative CIC. The idea is that community cohesion, making connections within and outside the families. The whole project is funded by local community partnerships. We would not be putting these family sessions without the LCP support. We also had lots of women from Muslim communities playing different cricket games and other activities here that we put out as well. So that is quite important, I think, because there are not many opportunities for those culturally appropriate sports or activity sessions with the whole family, including Muslim women. So I'm quite happy that that really worked out as well. We need to make sure that sport and activity is for everyone. There's a lot of intergenerational bonding happening, and that's all because of the funding. We want to really open it up with other communities as well. Then they can all come together, share some food, play some cricket together. And I think especially after what happened in the last few weeks, that is really important for our community. And so my name is Alosh. I'm the CEO of Cricketqube Initiative CIC.
Yeah, so this was featured by Newcastle City Council recently, and then they've mentioned previously what, in light of what happened in the last few months in the UK, I think this is really important to make sure that we have that community cohesion as well.
So my name is Alosh.
Moving forward.
So one of the impacts about our collaboration is setting up the Asian Lifestyle in Blacks and Asian platform. This was founded in February last year, and we've been running regular sessions about how to, improve the level of health literacy among these communities, because we do believe that the level of knowledge and awareness about some lifestyle-related conditions is lacking in this population, and we feel that having a platform whereby we'll engage and enthuse this group of people will go beyond that, and that would make them, develop self-confidence as well as have autonomy over their health as well. We had a Lipsa Congress, which was the first in-person event, despite several online events last couple of months. And outside this, we do have a WhatsApp community whereby we engage with this group of people on a regular basis. Next slide, please. Just like I said previously, the next round of the Lipsa webinar is tomorrow. And we want to seize this opportunity to let you know and to inform you that you're all welcome. We usually have a very good session engaging this community. So the link to join the webinar is, next slide, please.
There's a link there, but there's also a QR code.
Yeah.
I will also put it in the chat box after the meeting about the link, so hopefully you can join tomorrow at the webinar. Thank you so much for listening. So these are our contact details, and it would be great to listen to you about your ideas as well.
Thank you very much, both of you. That's a really engaging and insightful presentation. Thanks. And thanks also for sharing the opportunity to connect with you further. So we have plenty of time for questions. So let me just get my bifocals onto Slido. Button. So yes, the first question then is around recruiting your participants. And so could you tell us a bit more about how you went about that to recruit and to ensure engagement, and did you use a particular toolkit?
For our activity sessions, whether trial sessions or sessions in Newcastle, we try to work as much as possible with community organisations, and that they became an important conduit for us to get into different communities. And similarly, schools were also really supportive. And this is actually one of the things suggested by many co-designers. If you have got schools on board, they will have access to those parents and grandparents, and we have tried to make sure that we work with schools as much as possible. And I think one of the key reasons that we have good numbers at our sessions is because we have a history of community engagement. I think if we suddenly start up something and then try to woo people, it might be a little bit difficult. But because there's a lot of community engagement in the past and connections in the community, that really helps us to have numbers for our trial sessions as well as our co-development sessions, I would imagine. Is there anything else to add?
Yeah, and the Alipsa platform was a great way to also recruit our participants. I would state that words of mouth really helped us in this as well, apart from flyers. So we had a great participation from these communities within the cities through this means.
Thank you very much. Linked with that, can I ask really about, it was really notable that you had engagement across different cultural groups coming together. And I wondered whether any of that was related to the venues that you chose, or whether it was just something that happens in these diverse communities.
So yeah, the Newcastle event was done indoor. And I think it was a venue whereby Cricketqube has used in the past, so was not just meant for the family BYC. It was during the summer holiday, and I think they run different clubs within this venue, so people are quite familiar with, and it's quite accessible. It's not far from the train station, right? Alosh, I don't live in Newcastle, so it was a good venue. And for the Bristol event, we wanted to compare our findings because we had our first trial event indoor. So we thought we should have the other event outdoor, just so that we'd have the opportunity to compare our findings, because we want to make this as much as inclusive as possible. Yeah. I think it was based on that we chose indoor and outdoor. And for the Bristol event, it was in a very popular park, Jubilee Park, which is quite central, close to Tesco, close to Willowbrook. And I mean, it's quite accessible to everyone. So the two locations are very accessible. It's just that one was indoor and one was outdoor. And the reason for that is we wanted to compare our findings.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, like Dr. Faatihah said, the history of the venues plays a big part as well. I mean, the venue that we had Newcastle is called Diversity Hub itself, so it is already known to have hosted different diverse events, and it is also supported by various religious group, faith-based groups as well. So that was really helpful in making sure that we have got different communities there. And to touch upon Leeds, so we delivered the session at Leeds West Indian Community Centre, as it was known then. So I think that could be the reason that we had more Caribbean presence in our sessions there. I think venues are really key to making sure that we've got different communities coming on board. I think once a few different community members comes in, then, like Dr. Faatihah said, word of mouth takes over, and then we are always able to work with different communities after that point. And then again, as the co-developers mentioned, it was really, really important then to make sure that the community, the centers and event spaces were really accessible for people, not too far away from where they live, essentially. So we, as much as we can, we try to make sure that we had ultra local sessions, event centers. So if we knew that our target communities were in one particular part of the city, we try to make sure that we had our event center in that place as well.
Brilliant, thank you. So you've had some appreciation in the chat, thanking you very much, and saying it's a great project. So the next question, sorry if I can toggle the right button. Yeah, so you mentioned how important intergenerational engagement has been across this project, but the upper age of the age range mentioned, I think, is about 55 years old. And so did you manage to engage older people, so sort of post-retirement, older ages, or would you think about so many special approaches for the future to engage older people?
So for the Newcastle event, we had more grandparents compared to the Bristol event, and those people we saw will be more than 55 years. What we reported, what we found out. These are grandparents from the South Asian background, playing cricket with their grandchildren and their children as well. The ultimate goal about this model is, because we've just co-created a model, we would love to get more funding to run a pilot study and also identify some outcome variables or measures, because we've not really, I've had the opportunity to check the impact, of this cricket sport or cricket model on the physical health and mental health of this group of people. So I would love to look into that, recruit more participants from the older age group. We had just 2 grandparents throughout the 1-year duration project. We had more parents and children. So yeah, Alosh, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think obviously it is always a challenge to make sure that we've got older people in the center, and I don't think that's something that we always trying to make sure that we can manage. But I think part of it is making sure that we had 1 or 2 examples to show people that this works, and I think after that point we will have more people coming through. So as an organization in Newcastle, we do have a lot of older people sessions. So we deliver sessions including for people over the age of 60 at various places in the Northeast. Now, our next step would be to marry some of these sessions to our family sessions and to have older people participating there. But yeah, like I said, especially in our communities, older people are much less active than in other communities. So it is an ongoing challenge, but we're hoping that with our experience and more community connections, we can have a few, and then from there we could snowball the whole phenomenon.
Thank you very much for that response. You made a timely mention actually of outcomes and measures. This next question, I think, relates to that really. So what are your future plans for evaluating the intervention, and what types of outcomes and impact will you assess? So you mentioned a couple, but I just wondered if you want to say a bit more about that, and perhaps also about things like the wider impact, the social cohesion and community development and so on that you mentioned at the outset.
If we get a good funding scheme, would love to assess some outcomes subjectively and compare with objective variables as well. So one of the things is to measure their level of engagement in physical activity outside the cricket model, So we want an habitual active lifestyle. So beyond cricket, are you really active? Would love to gather that through surveys and objective measures as well. Aside that, I think the well-being of individual matter most from all health variables. So the health-related quality of life would be of interest, whereby we would use different surveys. Because the South Asian and Black communities have predisposition, higher risk of developing some lifestyle conditions. So some opportunities to have invasive measures like blood collections through checking for blood markers like lipid profiles, as well as the anthropometry, findings as well could help as well. I think the ultimate goal of developing a platform like this is looking at a holistic measure, a fun way to engage this group of people to be active. So I feel that there will be need to have an in-depth analysis or exploration of other outcomes, but this is what I have in mind at the moment. I would also love to, evaluate the impact over a long-term period, not necessarily one-off, so that we would have a baseline and compare with future findings. Yes, except if you have further suggestions.
I'm sure there are many people who could reach out to you with that. Thank you very much. So you mentioned the importance of culturally relevant food in the sessions, and I wondered whether you had any plans in the future for adding food and nutrition into as part of the intervention.
I think that would be really interesting thing to do. Because currently with Newcastle sessions, we work with most of our events where we have to provide food. We work with a company that itself works with home cooks. So essentially, all the food that we have at our various camps, including Family BYC, are home cooked by different people, and they always have different cuisines featuring in our sessions. So I think it'd be really interesting to see how nutrition plays a part. We make sure that we do ask people whether for summer camps we ask our children, and for family BYC we ask our families what kind of food they prefer, and then make sure that we kind of provide those food. But it would be really interesting to see if we can have a study into that, especially because our food is home cooked from different cooks in different locations around Newcastle.
Fantastic. So the questions are pouring in. So the next one, any advice on finding people with a particular health condition such as cancer among the groups that you work with, the South Asian and Black ethnic communities, for a physical activity trial such as yours?
The last Family BYC project was tailored on the public, not necessarily identifying people who have chronic lifestyle conditions. I wouldn't want to dwell more on that, because it's a sensitive issue. We want to make it as much as inclusive as possible. So identifying patients with chronic conditions, the level of engagement and the model might not be appropriate for their health at the moment. So I would suggest the ultimate goal of this project is to improve health and well-being of the public, those that are really engaging and are willing to participate in the cricket. I'm not sure if I answered the question, because it's based on recruiting patients with cancer, right? How we want them involved in this project, right?
Yeah, different groups with different health outcomes. Did you have any particular insights into engaging with them?
This is not one of Faatihah's goal at the moment. I think the most important thing is to engage the public, irrespective of your health condition, make it as much as inclusive as possible. But yeah, I don't have anything to say regarding that.
That's fine, thank you. So I think you might have partially answered this one, but someone has said, well done for being contracted by Newcastle to create the programme. What are your other plans to expand the programme, which you have touched on? So I'll misplaced. Oh, no, there it is. And someone else has asked about whether you're going to go beyond cricket, any other sports and games that were mentioned by your participants. So I'll just kind of merge those two questions as you partially answered one of them.
Yeah, so we are looking to see what we can do in the future. Obviously, as a community interest company, we need to make sure that we do get some funding from different places to make sure that this grows beyond its current stage. And as for adding different sports, I think it'd be a really interesting question to ask our participants. In our other experience, we do have different sports played in our summer camps, but Family BYC is generally a much shorter program. So we have the families for 45 minutes or to an hour at our Family BYC sessions. For summer camps, we've got kids for 4 hours. So there is the question of how and when we're going to add these sports. But I think if if children ask for, the families ask for different sport, I think we can incorporate that into our sessions. But we also make sure that within our sessions, we have got mini games and different skill-based games as well. So it might not be cricket as people imagine. It might not be just two teams playing each other. It could be some mini games played within, and that would have some influences from different sports, etc. So there's always that ability to change things around a little bit to make sure that it is accessible and loved by people who play it.
Thank you so much. There's a couple of questions around your methodology. So the first is around co-creation, and someone has asked whether that's the best method for developing initiatives aimed at improving health disparities in underrepresented populations. And I suppose maybe the background to that is that there are challenges, aren't there, to co-creating, co-designing, co-production.
Yeah. So the part of co-creating involve engaging those the end users, in developing what model or intervention you want them to use. So we opted for co-creating this model because we understand that they will give us or share their opinions about their level of engagement with cricket and the possibility of the barriers they experience, and that will be considered in developing an inclusive model suitable for these ethnic groups. And the essence of also having two different workshops, which is gender tailored, is because we understand that there are some barriers women, particularly from South Asian background, experience when it comes to accessing sports and not just accessing the uptake of sporting activities as well. And that was, considered through this workshop, and the findings were compared with a male co-developers workshop. We believe that engaging this group of people differently would give us more insight on how we could develop a more inclusive model for the community.
Thank you very much. And the other sort of methods related question is, why workshops and not focus groups, or did they follow the same structure as a focus group, I presume?
Yeah, that's a really good question. But the funding scheme will not allow us to conduct or engage in focus group discussion. It was part of our plan, but we needed to execute the trial session and workshop within 6 months. So that was why we opted for for the workshop. But in the future, and with the pilot study, which is the stage B of this project, we hope to have a focus group discussion and in-depth interviews as part of the methodology to explore.
Thank you very much. And I think I'll just have one remaining question. And that is, were any of the public contributors interested in being co-researchers, or perhaps is that on the horizon for the future?
Yeah, so we have an existing WhatsApp group, because we believe after this we shouldn't just leave our participants without attending or engaging them in other future projects. They are quite aware of our plan to secure another funding in the future, and they also come up with brainstorming ideas we could explore in the future. So we regard them as FBYC champions, because we would need their support and help in the future for the phase B of this project. So
excellent, thank you. I'll just have to do one last double check. I believe that's all of our questions. Thank you so much for those sort of detailed, thoughtful responses. So I believe it just remains for me to thank our speakers very much for that fabulous presentation and the discussion. Thank you for your attention to the audience. You've got thanks in the chat box as well, and thumbs up to those. And so your work is done. Thank you very much. We'll conclude the session there. Thank you very much, everyone, and see you at the next one.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Maria. Thank you.